Hello, everyone. Welcome to the TerraGo webinar. Again, it's a follow-up to the SALC conference. A lot of folks that are attending today, we had conversations there. So this is our hope to extend the conversation, continue the conversations. And as always, I would remind you, let's make this interesting. Please use the Q&A function to ask some questions. We'll get to those questions and get to the conversation with you guys. Because that's what we want to do to make it valuable and interesting for everyone. Also, as a follow-up, we will send a recording of the webinar. You can share with colleagues. We'll send the slides. You'll have those. And any questions we might not get to, we'll answer in a follow-up email to all attendees as well. And then I would also encourage you, please, we love doing this. We love having the dialogue with our customers. Please reach out to us if you want a personalized demo or briefing. You want to talk about something of particular interest to your city or utility, we're happy to do that. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in and get started with our webinar. Today, our speakers, proud to have TerraGo operations expertise. We're all in the same room, actually, here in Sterling, Virginia, in our headquarters. We have Charlie Nobles, our VP of Sales. Charlie, again, proud to have operational expertise. Charlie has a background with Progress Energy, now Duke Energy. He's also a Duke Blue Devil, coincidentally. He also has a meter and smart grid background, and most recently working with Ubiquity on the smart lighting side. So a lot of expertise and value to bring to us. Likewise, Jeremy Ferrell spent over 20 years at NextEra. Jeremy has a lot of operational expertise and strategy development expertise, and he works side by side with our customers every day, and his team are embedded as part of those teams, and we hope one thing our customers are on the call and even our partners would understand, and Jeremy's team, is we really emphasize the service on the software as a service aspect of TerraGo. We build our platform to be able to be configured and customized for our customers, and that comes with service. So all the changes, everything we do that's built into your subscription, we want to be a part of your team and have that type of collaboration for your success. A little bit about TerraGo, and I won't linger long. This is our 20th year as a software company. The first generation of software was actually 2003, where the founders of the company invented PDF maps. So if you've seen a PDF map with geo-reference coordinates in it, we invented that. We patented that, and that was the first generation. The first customer was AT&T field crews for locating telecom infrastructure. So it's a clear parallel to what we do today. Of course, now we're on the 5th generation of our software. It's a cloud-based, mobile-based, no-code platform. It's an integration platform as a service embedded as part of that. So we've invested tens of millions of dollars in R&D over the years to get to where we are today. And of course, we're not stopping there. We're going to keep developing and investing in this platform for the success of our customers. We do have award-winning results we like to show on this slide, but they're not ours. They're our customers, right? So we were named an IDC Smart Leader in the smart cities market for application platforms among and above a lot of multi-billion-dollar companies. We're proud of that. But the Smart City Awards come with our customers. So the City of Chicago, Exelon, Baltimore Gas and Electric, the City of Philadelphia, CPS Energy in San Antonio, several others. When we win awards, it's not for software in a vacuum. It's for achieving something with our customers. So we're very, very proud of that. Here are our customers and partners, at least a smaller sampling of that. 9 of the top 10 U.S. utilities do trust TerraGo. We're proud to say that our customer base is entirely referenceable, that all of our customers will tell you what we do for them and the value we bring to their operations, and we are committed to having that 100% referenceable customer base. Likewise, our partners, our valued partners, we work closely with these partners. We have engineering, technology, and business partnerships with the partners you see. This is a smart lighting-focused event or lighting-focused event. So you see a lot of the vendors over there, all the leading smart control vendors are there. And they're there because we work together with them to leverage the value that they bring with their smart lighting networks and amplify that value into our customers' operational domains. So we're proud to have a great set of partners work with us as well. A brief discussion of the platform. The platform philosophy of TerraGo is this is a field-first operations platform. We bring together a lot of elements that unify field service, asset, and work management. But we don't come in with a sledgehammer approach and try to replace your back office platforms. We integrate with your back office platforms so that we can enable your field crews and your mobile operations and your infrastructure asset management to be effective. Meanwhile, we're updating GIS, CRM, your SAP systems, IBM Maximo, Oracle, IFS, those types of platforms. We are a friend to the IT organization. We take IT work off of them. We offer integration platform as a service. So this platform is built to be a full-featured operations platform, but it's built to integrate with the systems you already invested in, and it's built to work the way you want to work. So important about this platform, and on this next slide, there's a lot to unpack here. I won't try to unpack all of it, but I will make one point about this platform. This platform is the same platform used by all of our customers, but it looks very different to each of them because it is customized with no-code configuration. And that is a field that's been growing in the last decade, but we have a particular philosophy about how we do that. Our engineers and our operational experts on Jeremy's team, we sit and work with you, and we make this platform do exactly what you want it to do from an operational point of view. The architecture is there for a full life cycle management. So we're there to meet you wherever you are in your operational work and your process growth. We have customers that start with planning, like Exelon, PHI, doing audits and surveys using the planning module. We have BG&E doing inventory. All of our customers are choosing the modules of our platform that they need today to meet their most important needs. And they can grow with them over time. So you choose exactly and you pay for exactly what you need based on your operational demands today. Again, this platform is a platform that was built to be IoT enabled and offer AI leveraging. We connect to all these different types of IoT devices. But it's important to understand, of course, that we manage all assets. We manage the analog assets. We manage dumb assets. We manage photocells and smart lighting controls. And we integrate with all those different back office systems because one of the powers that you get from a modern platform like this is the field truth comes from the crews. The fact that there is a light here on this side of the street, not that side of the street, needs to be reflected in GIS. The correct wattage of the elements need to be in the billing system. The assets, the warranty information need to be in your inventory and your maintenance systems. So we bring that all together because we don't want to be one system that does everything for a city utility. We want to be one system for your operations that updates all the systems that you need to have updated. So you get a single pane of glass for your operations, but we share that data with all your back office systems while we leverage all those different smart devices you have that can bring so much value, not just for energy savings and reducing your carbon footprint, but for enabling operational processes that wouldn't be possible without all of that data. But it needs a fabric for you to be able to manage it and your business rules to get the most out of it. And that's really what the platform is about. Today, we're going to go through stories and we're going to talk about customers, right? Because nobody wants to listen to a vendor talk about all the great things their software does in a vacuum. We're going to talk about stories with our customers, what they do today, and some examples that we talk about the smarter lighting operations, whether you have smart controls or not, and you can do a lot more smart controls, how you do these things, unifying maintenance, like with Duke Energy, reducing truck rolls, City of Chicago, accelerating storm and outage restoration with Georgia Power Southern Company, optimizing supply chains with Exelon, increasing service levels and reliability, JPS, leveraging AI with NextEra Energy and Pedernales. We're going to talk about these examples. Clearly, we have other examples, other customers, and I would encourage you again now, as I turn it over to our experts to talk, start asking your questions, put them in the chat, and then we'll get to that discussion, which hopefully we get the most value out of. We want to make this fun, we will make it interesting, and we truly appreciate your time. So without further ado, I'm going to turn over the first slide to Charlie Nobles to talk about unifying maintenance.
Great, thanks, Mike. So this is kind of exciting. Talk about real customer use cases and not just the capabilities of the system, but how an individual customer is using our system to satisfy their needs according to their business rules. So we're just very briefly, I'm going to hit three different specific use cases. The first one here being unifying maintenance. So you saw ahead when Mike showed the slide that this is related to Duke Energy and how they're using the TerraGo platform. And the other point that Mike made, I will highlight again, is that we're focusing today on smart lighting or lighting assets. whether it's smart lighting or photocells, fixtures, poles, all that makes up your street lighting operations. And it could be some mix of smart and not smart lighting. So we're focused on this market segment, although we've been active in other market segments. You're looking at joint use, metering, line sensing, other distribution assets. We're going to focus on how we can help you operationalize and get savings out of your smart lighting, your street lighting assets, smart and not smart. So first, 3 bullets, very simple. I've already mentioned them. By the way, I don't know if Mike mentioned, but we're going to provide a copy of this deck to you. So we're not going to read every bullet. We're going to talk to these slides. We're going to try to explain why that's important to the customer, how they're using that particular feature. So you'll get access to these slides. I want to make a few points here on this first slide. This idea of the unified operations, all lighting assets, for all crews, even customers. We'll talk about the customer input as well. This idea of comprehensive asset management, I've mentioned that. This is photocells and smart controls all in one system. And then the third point is we'll talk about this new trend we're seeing that TerraGo's platform enables, which is around multi-vendor workflows. And we'll talk about what multi-vendor means and the advantages for our individual customers. So, Mike, if you can advance the slide, please. So Duke Energy. Duke Energy is one of the largest utilities in the U.S. You can see on the left, 2.5 million lights. They are all in and moving towards LED fixtures and with controls, and using our platform as they deploy this system over the next several years. Now, on the right, you see some bullets that were excerpted from Chris Danforth, who's one of the principals in the outdoor lighting section for Duke Energy. He's got a lot of experience with TerraGo, incorporating Duke Energy business rules into the platform to get exactly the outcomes they want. And these are some of the outcomes that they want and that they're seeing. They want all their installation technicians to be able to manage through the same workflows regardless of the control node. This gets back to this idea of multi-vendor environment. They don't want the person in the field with the mobile app to have to worry about which control node, which vendor am I now getting this data from? Do I need to process that to a different workflow or not? They want the same workflows. And then this single pane of glass idea is critical, and that is really critical to a multi-vendor hardware deployment because every vendor has their own specific bespoke software for their node, but the customers want one pane of glass to interact with that software and that node. And then to extract savings, operational savings from this approach. Next slide, please. Thank you. So at a glance, this is a bit busy, but this kind of thing schematically shows where we sit kind of in the middle, the one pane of glass in the very middle of the slide that supports both workflow access that's on mobile devices in the field, web access for those in the back office who are looking at the analytics, looking at the data, tracking the progress of crews in the field to do restoration work or to manage work orders. And then wrapped around that, you'll talk a lot about analytics, which is a growing area, and you'll see how Duke is specifically trying to leverage the analytics we provide to make sure they reduce unnecessary truck rolls in the field. On the left, you'll see the 3 vendors that they are using, Ubiquiti, Verizon, and FlashNet, nodes from these 3 vendors. Our APIs connect into the CMS for each of these 3 vendors, but also, as Mike mentioned, connect into these specific back office systems for Duke Energy so that data flows through our platform and actions that happen in the field are reflected and updated in real time to the enterprise systems on the back end. So that looks very simple. That is not simple to do. Our platform has been doing that for many years, and that is the reason why that Duke has been using the platform. Next slide, please, Mike. So when you have a multi-vendor environment, and there are many advantages, you don't have vendor lock-in. You can actually use different attributes of different vendors for different particular applications in the field to optimize the productivity, optimize the output, the functionality. But you also introduce a lot more complexity. Every node that might have a threshold, customer set thresholds for alerts or alarms will trigger those. And you do not want to roll the truck at every single alert or alarm that's triggered. You want to apply some business logic to that. You want to validate against other nodes that may be close by on the same circuit. So imagine the left where each vendor's solutions, based upon the customer set thresholds, are pushing out alarms or alerts, and even a customer web portal. People have access to, say, a light is out in my neighborhood, and here's the location. So you have all of these inputs that eventually will drive action. What TerraGo does, and through this stage, you see we're taking these alarms, alerts, we're looking at duplicates and reducing the duplicates might be on the same circuit. Is it a circuit level issue? Is it a specific issue with one fixture? Is it across multiple fixtures? Is it to do with the network in that area? And we're applying analytics and logic and adding business rules from the customer. If we see these types of alerts and we see them and we know they're validated, do we immediately send a truck? Do we wait 24 hours to see if it self-clears? And so at the end of this process, when it gets down to dispatching crews to work orders, you want to make sure that those final work orders have been validated. You know, essentially the calls, you know what type of crew to send, where to send to get the work done with one truck roll resolution. That's the goal. That process eliminates a lot of unnecessary, no trouble found work orders, or getting to a site and realizing that you've got the wrong crew, the wrong equipment, which is causes a lot of O&M costs. So this is one of the reasons why a platform of ours has been, and how it's being leveraged to support this multi-vendor environment that we see more and more being leveraged in the field. Next slide, please. So I know you're probably thinking and you have questions around that topic. Note those questions, get them to us, and we'll move on to the next use case. We have 6 use cases to cover. We can spend one webinar for each of these. We're going to try to give you the high-level use case, why it's important to the customer, and what we did, and please ask questions. So getting to this reducing truck roll, you saw that the last gate of this funnel was creating work orders. So now these work orders go out, but the way they're dispatched is very important because we're seeing that customers want to be clever and smart with how they dispatch and how they leverage their crews in the field. First, making sure you get root cause and you know what's got to be fixed or repaired or replaced, and get the right crew with the right tools, that location. It sounds simple, but the dispatch function is very important to get right. The second is, once you've got a group of work orders, looking at work orders that might be in similar locations, maybe it's a pole that has 2 fixtures on it, 2 lighting fixtures, and is it both? Is it one or the other? Are there 2 work orders created really for one location? So we can actually manage and orchestrate that work better, so we don't have redundant site visits. And we use location intelligence to help us. Because the other part of this is if there are a number of work orders for a crew, we can help them route and optimize the routing to get more quickly from one to the next to the next. That clearly reduces the O&M cost of service, but it also speeds the restoration. The more efficiently you can map that out and drive those crews in the correct order, the lower cost of service would be for your fleet of Streetlight assets. Let's talk about a third one. I'm sorry, in the city of Chicago, I should have mentioned earlier, this is the poster child for where we really saw this be very important. This has actually been several years ago. This process started for the city of Chicago, replacing and converting high-pressure sodium streetlights over to network LED lights. And it had a lot of savings earmarked, which paid for the program. When they installed our platform integrated with Itron's City Edge Controls Network, what you saw in the last few slides actually resulted in carving a year off of the deployment schedule. And that's amazing. Typically, we see a 3-year project becomes a 4-year project. And you know that the savings, the further out you push the savings, the lower the net present value is of the project. So when you can actually bring a project up a year earlier, that is extremely accretive to the business case. It reduces the cost, it makes the payback even faster, and it gets it done more quickly. So it's a better leverage of the resources. And you can see the quote there on the elated folks in Chicago by bringing us in, how they were able to get this done. It really became a leading best case in the industry for that. Next, Mike. So the third one I'll talk about. Now, this is near dear to my heart. I worked for a utility. My storm job was damage assessment. I was a damage assessor, or as I like to say, I'm a surviving damage assessor. So we would go in like the Seabees and the Navy, kind of when it's still a little dicey in an ice storm or a hurricane, winds are still high, but you're sent into an area to see what's on the ground, whether it's conductor, poles, transformers, street lights, capture that, call that in. So then and only then can you actually know where to stage your gear, what type of gear you need, what kind of crews, where to stage them, and set up staging logistics sites and then get after their response. So we had a unique opportunity recently with Hurricane Helene that challenged us. It was a very specific ask from Georgia Power. We're going to talk about it. And in fact, let's just move straight into that next slide. So this was, Helene, as you know, was a devastating hurricane in not just Georgia, but several states in western North Carolina as well. And the speed at which you have to first assess the damage, what was damaged, where it's damaged, get the crews there before you can even start restoration. So the opportunity we were presented with is, you have mutual assistance crews, you have third-party contractors, you have your own crews, and the name of the game is how fast can you safely restore power. But you have to assess it first. We were asked to put together a very quick mobile application that can be used by their own crews, by third-party contractors, by mutual assistance crews in the field that would allow the assessors to quickly canvass an area, capture what's damaged, get that turned into work orders, then to drive the restoration crews to go do that work specifically, quickly, update that, and then get that pushed back into the GIS systems. Most folks that work for utilities know that a major storm just wrecks your GIS system because these crews' job primarily is to restore power. And you hope that they capture what they did in the field so that your GIS system reflects the truth on the street in the field. And then again, over a weekend, we were able to create this app, get it out to these third parties, train them. I think there were, my notes say, 300 users downloaded that app in 72 hours. And this app was downloaded with almost 400,000 physical assets pushed down. 300,000 plus were just streetlight assets, but others, there were 90,000 assets, which were transformers and poles and other things. And from that, in these specific areas, they canvassed 75,000 locations in 2 weeks and generated a ton of focused work orders, which then were sorted through and completed by crews. So right gear, right location, right crews, and that's how you, it's just very simple, that's how you speed restoration. Next slide, please. But I think that's those 3 use cases. Please, as you're thinking through what you've just heard, and Jeremy will take the next 3 use cases, please start feeding us some questions. We'll be happy to answer them. Jeremy?
All right, thank you, Charlie. I know, as Charlie talked about, we talked a lot about some very specific field-based situations here, right, with storm restoration, installation, et cetera, maintenance, operations and maintenance. But, one of the pieces that you may not think about when you think about TerraGo is the ability of our platform to also help in optimizing the supply chain. So really from an increased efficiency standpoint, lower expenses, optimizing supply flows, you know, realistically, kind of taking that single pane of glass thought process again, you can manage your inventory through TerraGo as well, right? That whole Streetlight inventory, right? Do you have one warehouse? Do you have multiple warehouses? Do you have inventory sitting on trucks? Do you have a storm season where you need to ramp up and have additional inventory? Do you have situations where, you know, various inventory situations are out there with a tough time to track, right? That's one of the things that the TerraGo platform can also help with related to a Streetlight management system, right? Is, you know, as you can see here, BG&E kind of utilize that inventory module and the inventory life cycle to really make sure that, you know, the day's demands, the work's demands, the inventory was available, where it was, how it was routed, et cetera, right? That was a big piece to not only, like I said, improve efficiency, but reduce life cycles, reduce time cycles, et cetera, and ensure that you have the right inventory needed at the right time for your system, right? Again, another use case that not maybe is typically thought about within the TerraGo platform. Another one that I know is probably near and dear to a lot of your hearts is, you know, service levels and reliability, right? So many of you on the phone probably are beholden to some form of regulatory body, right? Whether that be a municipal leadership, whether that be a public service commission, public utilities commission, et cetera, right? All that information is important when you're in front of those regulatory bodies, right? And from my utility background, I remember going to, you know, certain PSC hearings and literally spending months gathering data to be able to justify the costs associated with utility operations, right? Well, utilizing the TerraGo platform, not only do you have the faster response times, you have the reduced town times, and you have a better field to office back collaboration. You know, Charlie mentioned a lot about analytics in our platform, right? We can build those things out in real time where, you know, if you know that you have certain reporting requirements or certain metrics that you want to monitor on a daily basis, you're being held to, you're being beholden to through a PSC, through a PUC, through a regulatory body, right? We can build those out. We can build those out and have those ready, available for you, right? At the touch of a button. Jamaica Power, obviously, is a use case here that, you know, really, realistically, right, using our platform, they were able to, you know, justify that regulatory environment. Charlie mentioned they actually moved that project to the left, right? They expedited a little bit, right? Improved that NPV. But if you can't communicate that correctly to your regulatory bodies, that's difficult, right? That's another piece of the TerraGo platform that is out there that can help each and every one of you, right? We talked about kind of our customizable platform, right? We customize it to each individual customer. That means your regulatory requirements, your analytics, your reliabilities, your service levels, right? We can customize those individual things down to each one of your very specific needs. Another piece that I think is important for us to chat about is leveraging AI, right? I'm sure everybody on the phone has been bombarded with hearing about AI this, AI that, how are we going to utilize AI? Here at TerraGo, we're no different, right? We're looking into how do we, you know, automate things like asset surveys and inspections, transform reliability, optimize work management, right? Predictive failures, whatever the case may be. So we're in the process on our journey of leveraging AI to be able to help each one of you and each one of our customers along their journey in their operations of their streetlight maintenance situations. One area that we already have rolled out, and this was near and dear to my heart when I was with NextEra, previous company. This was actually my project, and we were doing an installation and lost the word. Retrofit. Thank you, Mike. We're doing a retrofit to LEDs, and they were also going to smart control. But one of the main use cases for Pertinalis Electric Co-op in and around Austin was they believed there were a number of lights and poles out there that they weren't billing for. They didn't know existed. I'm sure nobody on the phone has ever heard anything like that. And that's a real use case, right? A real-time use case, a real solvable issue that TerraGo can help out with. Utilizing AI, TerraGo came up with a discovered nodes process, right? Utilizing AI, we can detect lights that are not captured during field audits, right? And utilizing this AI process with PEC, TerraGo actually found a little over 10,000 lights that were not being billed properly, right? So it's a revenue recovery situation, right? I know, again, back to that regulatory component, right? All our regulators want us to bill correctly, want you to bill correctly, bill for the right lights, bill for the, make sure that the proper customer is being billed for what they are being paid, what they are paying for, right? And utilizing AI, we were able to help solve that use case specifically for the Pergnelis Electric Co-op. So with that, that's the end of the overall presentation. We wanted to make sure that we left time for questions, Q&A. If anybody wants to throw anything into the chat, I know, Madison, you're monitoring that. So if we've got any questions that we can throw out there.
Okay. I'm going to start with this question here, and I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy and Charlie to answer. What trends are you seeing in how utilities are modernizing streetlight operations? What new trends are you seeing? Gentlemen?
I think probably, really one of the trends that we're certainly seeing is utilities transitioning kind of away from a hardware-centric streetlight system to a more unified data operations platform. Right? A lot of folks are going to smart controls. A lot of people are looking at their legacy systems and figuring out what they have, and they're turning to really trying to understand what's what's in the field from an analytics, asset management, et cetera. Charlie?
Yeah, I'll jump on that. Another trend, I think I mentioned it earlier. By the way, this is live. You can tell we're doing this live. This is not recorded. It's this idea of multi-vendor deployments. In the past, it's been binary. You have to choose a vendor. And you have that vendor for as long as you work there, it seems. And we're seeing there are a lot of advantages to multi-vendor. But the issue has always been, do I want to log into 3 different software applications and manage this fleet? It creates a lot of complexity. And then do I want each of those software applications to have some way to capture data and push it into my JS systems? You don't want that. And we did not invent this trend, but our platform, our single pane of glass, absolutely supports it. So we're seeing more and more of our customers wanting to have more than one vendor option available to them, but they want that kind of moved away from the field crews. The field crews don't need to care or know whose vendor that is. They're working a work ticket for that light, for that issue. And so we supply that, and that's a trend. I think it's going to continue across other asset classes as well.
All right, great. We've got new questions coming in. Again, let's make this interesting, folks. Keep them coming. We have time. So Jitendra asked, how is this different from other solutions like Ubiquia? Charlie, you probably can give a good answer to that. Knowing Ubiquia and knowing TerraGo, you probably have a fairly informed perspective on that.
Sure. So there is a key difference between what we referred to in one of the slides was the CMS. The CMS is the software and firmware that supports that vendor's smart node. It is bespoke, designed, and developed for the capabilities of that node. And each vendor has their own CMS. And the CMS has outputs, and it captures data, and even adds analytics. So they vary by functionality based on the vendor. Our platform is not the CMS. Our platform talks to, through APIs, can connect to and bring data in and out of a CMS. We can push commands to a CMS for a vendor, pull data from a CMS, and then we connect that directly into the utilities or cities' back office systems. The CMSs are not connected to these back office systems. Our platform is kind of between the two. So you choose, a customer will choose a vendor in their CMS or CMSs of choice, and they will add our platform to integrate with those CMSs in their back office system. So there's very distinctly different roles between the two. So we are agnostic to the vendors. We love them all. like I love all my kids the same. But they're all different in the way we connected them, and the capabilities can be different. So we don't choose. The customer chooses the vendors, and we integrate all that into the back office and handle all of the operational workflows associated with it.
It's a fairly common question we get. I'm sorry, Jeremy's gonna jump down. I'm just gonna say from a very high level, with our partners in the room, we kind of get it, right? The controls and the CMS make the lights work smarter. TerraGo is about leveraging and amplifying that value to make the people work smarter. So we're really focused on it, translating the value of those smart controls into operations. And that is a distinction that we have. There are things that we do, like you can control lights in the TerraGo app and turn them on and off. So a field crew can do that. Clearly you can do that with Ubiquia from a back office point of view. So we're extending that value of Ubiquia and Itron and Signify and FlashNet and these other controls out into field crew operations and into your operational command center. So there's a difference in focus. And again, I think simply they make the lights work smarter. We're about extending that to helping the people work smarter.
Yeah, and I think one thing I would add to it, if you recall the funnel slide, right, that Charlie spoke about earlier, right? All the vendors out there all have great products, right? We're partners with over 14 different vendors. You specifically mentioned Ubiquia, right? But if you look at that funnel side, that first section really is those nodes, those smart light controllers are going to give off a number of alarms, right? Whether that is a temporary interruption to a cell coverage, a temporary outage, power outage, et cetera. They're still going to give off that alarm. Well, what our platform does is kind of sit and work in coordination with that in the business rules that you want. If you know you have a temporary outage, you don't want to necessarily respond to an alarm, roll a truck, right? But you also don't want to have somebody sitting there monitoring every single alarm to determine, yes, I want to do that, no, I don't want to do that. TerraGo does that for you automatically, right? To really operationally get down to what you need to roll a truck on.
Right. I'll say one more comment and we'll move on, because this is one that has a lot of complexity. The other thing that TerraGo platform can do is we can ingest other data. We're bringing in all the data from the lighting control nodes, and this is a lighting control or lighting street lighting operations discussion today. But to the extent the customer allows us and wants us to ingest other distribution data, we can pull that in to compare that to the lighting asset data. Back to your point, if there's a local outage, well, houses will be out of power and street lights, but it's not a street light issue. It's really a restoration of power issue. We can see that, and we would then help them not run trucks just to go review or repair streetlights that they're not root cause, as an example.
Right. We also didn't talk a lot about integrations, right? So it's kind of where Charlie was going, right? We can integrate back into the GIS systems. Mike showed that slide where we were integrated into a lot of the utility systems, right? Directly into the work order management system, if you so desire, right? Again, taking those alerts to issues, right? Taking what you need to do and automatically submitting a work order. And that's something that we sit on top of with the NLCs to make sure we do that. We also can integrate back into the GIS system, keep your GIS systems real time as the people are in the field installing, making sure that they're capturing the assets that are being literally put in the field, right? A lot of times what ends up happening is, okay, all that is captured on a either a spreadsheet, something like that. It gets eventually sent to GIS. GIS may have to do some manual input and put that in. Maybe they transpose something, maybe they get something a little off, right? Our system makes sure that everything stays up to date, real time, for your back office systems as well.
Yeah, that's an important element. A lot of the questions are coming in on that too. It's the ground truth that once we have the TerraGo platform out there and your operations are enabled, it should be the last time you have to do an audit because your data is so bad. Because if your field crews and your resources are using the TerraGo app and we're updating the GIS system, you have self-healing living data, right? And that's an important philosophy of how we do things with our customers is we do want to get your data right and help you with an AI audit if we need to. But once we're out there working, we're going to keep that data, you know, at the highest level of quality can, because we've got the infrastructure out there and the field crews with them, and that's how you update your GIS system. The GIS department doesn't go in the field. They don't get that data. You need to, you know, break down the barriers between what's happening in the field and your back office systems. And that's kind of a revolutionary way of thinking in a lot of ways. There are a few questions here that, guys, I'm going to try to wrap up for you like in one, because they have an element here. It's, does your software directly interface with the controllers, or is there software in the middle? How do you integrate with multi-vendor smart lighting controls? Do you use your own APIs, depending on mutual support for talk? And then there was another talk question. Are you talk compatible? I answer the question quickly, and I'll turn it back over to the experts. We are a member of talk. We believe in talk. We actually leverage that standard. It is a very important standard. I would say, like all things in my software career, that standard is useful, and you should insist that products you know, apply to these types of standards, because it helps the customer. It is a data interface standard that helps you make sure that you can talk the same language. It's not the same as being interoperable, right? So a standard is good. So we believe in talk, we support talk, we're a member of the committee, and we do that. And our integrations happen because we have real partnerships with the control vendors, and we actually optimize the integration between our software and their software, and in some cases our software directly with their control nodes. And we leverage talk to do that. And it's nothing proprietary or anything, but it is not only just a standard. You can't rely simply on the standard. So having given that kind of brief, quick answer, I think the question that folks have is, how do we integrate with all these different smart vendor controls, and are we using their APIs, and how do we do that?
Yep, absolutely. And I'll start. We have over 14, I believe at this point, commercial grade APIs that we have built internally, right? That go connect back to all of our partners and the node vendors for the NLCs, et cetera, right? So those APIs are our APIs, commercially built, that we continually maintain and update on a regular basis with our partners.
And I'll make a comment about that as well. So, you know, these APIs, the 14 different vendors, very important. And as new vendors enter the market, if customers want to use those vendors, we would work with that vendor to create the APIs necessary to bring the data back and forth that the customer wants. Over time, the customers may decide, you know, I additionally want this data. I want voltage sag data off of Streetlight for other distribution reasons, et cetera. So that's actually something that moves, and we work with the customers as they redefine and add to their business rules of what do they want to bring back, what controls do they want to push forward. And so, you know, again, to Mike's point, talk alone is, it's necessary but not sufficient. I think is what I learned in math years ago. Necessary but not sufficient, meaning that there's other data that customers may want to bring back or to get out of these CMSs, and we would support API development with the vendor directly for that data as well, for a richer data complement for doing broader things in the field.
Yeah, and I brought up this slide just to show. I mean, again, we have commercial connection. I think Jeremy said we have 14 now, so we don't show them all, but Itron, Signify, Ubiquity, FlashNet, all these livable cities, Trade Air, these different vendors, we have commercial connectors, and we work with them to make them reliable, robust, scalable, and constantly improving, right? So that doesn't happen by osmosis or just by a spec. That happens through real collaboration. So I do think that's important. See, another question. Do you have the ability to show knockdown poles, or is that someone else, or is that others? So I think we work with some folks that have pole tilt monitors, right?
Yeah.
So, and we do that through their APIs, right? So we don't do that. We're not a hardware vendor, but we do integrate with other vendors that do things like pole tilt sensors and all different types of sensors. We've integrated with EV chargers, intelligent traffic systems, gunshot detection sensors, all different types of smart city and smart grid sensors.
But I actually have an anecdote on pole tilt, because that's a project I used to manage. I integrated with TerraGo. We had pole tilt sensors, right? We set them at a certain degree that we wanted to understand if the pole tilt was happening. Unfortunately, there's a difference between fiberglass poles, wood poles, concrete poles, et cetera. had them installed in a very windy mountain area on fiberglass poles in Pennsylvania. We were getting alarms all the time because the wind was tilting these things 20 to 25 degrees a lot of the time, right? And so what I did is I worked, actually, when I was a customer, worked with TerraGo to set up a business rule that says, I don't want those alerts if they're, 25 degrees or less on a pole tilt, right? So I wasn't constantly being bombarded with these pole tilts, right, that I didn't need to run a truck on because it was just a weather situation with a fiberglass pole. So it's just an anecdote that I have specifically on pole tilt sensors.
Trying to add intelligence to the operations, because you don't want to react to every single threshold that is exceeded. And frankly, sometimes utilities need to change the thresholds. When they see the data, we try to help them triage that data to help them even establish what would be a proper threshold that would require a truck roll or would lead to some type of cause or event.
Right. But back to kind of just the genesis of what I think that question was, right? If you set a parameter that says, hey, I want to know if a pole is 80% tilted, right? Which is a knockdown, right? We can also put in the business logic to automatically do an emergency work order, right? That's flagged through your system and goes in immediately. And so those are some of the kind of use cases that TerraGo can utilize in those types of situations.
One more thing I want to touch on, and we didn't talk about it a lot, but I don't want this to be lost, is that, when I was with the utility as an employee, when you drive around, if you see a pole tilted, you were supposed to, or if you saw a light out at night, you were supposed to capture that and let someone know. Well, there are people that are diligent, and if they see a pole down or see a light out, they want to have a way to interact with the utility to let them know. And the utilities need to bring all this data in and use this data in concert with the other data they have before they send trucks. So one of the things we've done is we've created a customer engagement or community engagement module where we provide mapping and capabilities for people to log in on the web and send data to the utility. And it's our interface, our application. We bring that customer data in combined with sensor data or employee-driven data to help. That's part of the equation that sometimes is lost, is getting customers a way to engage with the utility, and we provide that as well through our platform.
Yeah, there are a couple business questions here. Sorry, during my browser, I'm going to show Georgia Power. I'll give up on that for a second.
This is live TV, folks.
Yeah, sorry about that. I want to show you Georgia Power and the community engagement module. I'll come back to that. A couple business questions were, how do we charge for our software? And it's a simple SaaS fee subscription based on your number of assets. And we can go into more details on that, but it's a simple SaaS fee and the screen and the subscription is all in. So you make changes to our software day 1 for launch or day 30. We include those customization and configuration changes as part of the release.
And for those in the utility world, like I was when they used to tell me it was a SaaS fee, that is a software as a service fee.
Now, if you're an investor on utility listening in, maybe asking yourself, can I capitalize that? And frankly, that's done often. It can be a multi-year term, and there are ways to prepay at the start a certain chunk or a measure of that 5-year term and capitalize that. And some of that gets down to the business rules around that utility and the state they operate. But a lot of the costs can be capitalized.
And somebody was asking as well, so just show that quickly, is how do customers report outages? So this is just an example. This is Georgia Power reporting a streetlight outage. This is the TerraGo map that's here. So right embedded within their own website, you have the ability to go in and report a streetlight. And one of the cool things is what folks have mentioned, Jeremy and Charlie were talking about, was if it's already reported out or we already know it's out, maybe you have smart light controls, then it's already shown as out. So you don't get duplicate reports coming in. You also can communicate with the customers and say, it's out, and we expect it to be completed within 5 business days. You can give them information, and they can sign up for updates on reporting these lights out as well. So customers are able to come in and report lights out, and you're able to keep on that same pane of glass that we talk about. your customer's on that same pane of glass, right? So it reduces your call center volume, improves customer satisfaction. So that was we had a couple questions about that.
And if I may, not only will it potentially reduce the customer call center volume, it also kind of bridges back that back-end office piece that we were talking about as well, right? Your customer call center also can have access to that map. Customer calls in and says, hey, I'm reporting light out at First and Main. They can go in there and they can say, thank you, sir, that has been reported. It's got an ETA time of XYZ. Again, reducing duplicate truck rolls.
We had a question, does the mobile app work offline when connectivity is poor in the field? It does. So I can answer that quickly. If you have any anecdotes, we can talk about it, but they're native mobile apps for iOS, Android, and Windows. And the way we do that is we have a database on it. So there's actually, you bring the data down onto the app, you complete the entire workflow within the app, the local database gets updated in the iOS or the Google app, right? And the minute they get connectivity via cell or Wi-Fi or what have you, the synchronization resumes. So it's there ready to be synchronized, but it works completely offline. Let's see, somebody raised a hand. If they raise a hand, what can I do? I think if you raise your hand and you want to type a question in, go ahead. I don't think I can call on them, can I? It's fun just to, yeah.
Well, the last slide shows contact information for us, so if you don't get your questions answered, please reach out and email or call us.
Yeah, we'll send them, and in the email too, we'll follow up. Someone asked, who is the contact for business partners? That's Charlie Nobles for partners for TerraGo. And I think that may have been the only other business question. Let's see, additional questions. In an operational workflow, would TerraGo's platform eliminate the need for using a controlled vendor's CMS to see your customers continue to use both? I think the simplest answer to that is there are different use cases. The CMS is being used to manage the lighting network, the energy savings. So we have analytics. They have analytics in the CMS talking about energy savings and things like that. Our analytics are about the operations and the work. How long are work orders out, service tickets, service levels, those types of things. So there are a lot of things that sound similar between the CMS, TerraGo. I think that the simplest way to look at it is that there are different users and different use cases for things that sound similar. We both do analytics, but they're different analytics. Analytics for the lights, analytics for the operations. Controlling the lights remotely from a back office point of view and disconnects, or a field crew actually using it to troubleshoot a problem. There are a lot of things that we do that are similar, but they both work together. So with our CMS partners, their solution still has great value, and we are out to amplify that, not to diminish that in any way. So, so I think that's an important distinction to understand as well.
I think we can tap the brakes on that just a second. I think the last comment you just made was helpful. The TerraGo platform, since it's focused on all operational workflows and integrations into all these other various systems the utility has, which the CMS is not necessarily connected to, it actually amplifies the capability of the CMS. Yes, there's some, you can control a light on the TerraGo platform because it's sending a command to the CMS to control the light on and off or dim. But the real power is in taking that firmware, that software, those outputs that are captured by the CMS and making them visible, exposing them to the rest of the back office systems. That's the key point. We don't create any data on the lighting control, though that's not already there. If the CMS doesn't capture it, flag it, expose that data, we don't have access to it. We're just taking the data the customer wants out of the CMS and exposing it in ways that they can be integrated into other systems and drive operational workflows.
We have one more question. Can the workflow be customized on the go? Jeremy, that's good.
So I saw that question come in. I'm not really sure what on the go means, but let me answer it in this way. The workflows are extremely customizable and can be customized. Again, we're a no-code platform, so when we when the customer wants to make changes, we can do that in a matter of days, weeks, not years, right? We don't go into a development cycle and have to throw things into, kind of the next release 6 months to a year from now. Most customers, we release sometimes on a weekly basis, sometimes on a monthly basis, right? Really depends on what the customer is really looking for. So the best way I can answer that as far as, is it customizable on the go? We do build out workflows in accordance with the business rules of the customer. And that is customizable. And if there is a change that needs to be made, right? Like you're out in the field, you're utilizing the platform, and you say, wow, I wish I wish this button was over here, or I wish we captured this information, or gosh, we forgot to put this parameter in there. That's what we work with you on a weekly basis. You have a named PM that works with you on a weekly basis to capture those requirements and make those changes again in the matter of days, not months, years, et cetera.
Yeah.
Let me add a comment to that, which is really great, because sometimes customers start off and say, I just want to change out the node. Then later it's like, well, actually, while we're out there, why don't we capture the pole tag? Okay, well, then that's change, right? We can add that button, add that capture, and the field crew, they can't complete the work order until that's completed, if that's what the business rule calls for. So that's an example of a quick change that's driven by customer need. Another is an example, and maybe this is not where the question is leading, but I think it's important. We talked about integration into financial systems. So if the work order suggests that you're sending a crew out to repair a fixture that's repairable, or a fixture, an arm, the node, whatever, and they get out there and they realize, no, the field truth is that from what I see, that's got to be replaced, not repaired. So you really want them to close out that work order and create a new work order for a replacement. Now, why would that be? Because the cost center for a field repair and a field replacement could be the difference between an O&M cost center and a CapEx cost center. And you don't want them just to complete the work and say, well, I had to replace it, but then O&M is paying for it, and yet it should have been captured under a rate, a CapEx model. So integration, so being able to, in the field, if the customer wants us to build that into the field work order so that they could actually modify that work order if they see something different and they can't complete it as is, well, then we can capture that. We can actually push that into the proper financial buckets as well. And that's not trivial. That's a non-trivial change for utility. And that actually, the difference between O&M capture and CapEx capture is important on the financial side.
And if the question, is it all about the software side? Remember, we change behavior with configuration. So even on the mobile app, if you said, I want to add this field, we change that in a configuration on the database server. So we change that live. It changes on the app. They don't have to download a new version of the app, because the app actually behaves based on the configuration that it's getting from the server. So that's, again, another power of the no-code way we built this. You don't have to go, oh, we changed the app. Everybody would go re-download the app. You don't have to do that. To make a simple workflow change, you literally can just change it on the server, and it automatically is dispensed and changed for all the apps that are out there. We have 1 minute left. I don't know if there are any other questions coming in.
No, we'll pick up some of these questions in the second hour of this webinar. Just joking. Although we could probably talk another hour about the features and capabilities. I think we'd lose most of our audience if we did that.
And this one is probably not for TerraGo, but how would TerraGo's system support lighting curves, dimming profiles, or is that left to the vendor CMS?
That would be
So a dimming profile, so with TerraGo, you can set up dimming profiles and schedules within TerraGo that then communicate back to the CMS for execution. The advantage of, from a TerraGo standpoint, again, remember, we're talking about single pane glass, right? So instead of having to sign into another application, or if you have multi-vendors signing into multi applications to set individual dimming profiles, you can do all of that through TerraGo, right? So if you have multi-vendors, right, and you want in a certain section to say, I want these lights to dim 20% at dusk or at sunrise, whatever the case may be, right? Instead of going into each individual CMS, you can go into TerraGo, set that dimming profile across that area within TerraGo, which then communicates back into the CMS to execute the commands. Hope that answers the question.
Now, the CMSs, based on the vendor, they could do that dimming differently. One could have a logarithmic or a linear profile using Dolly 2. So there's different ways that the CMS will execute that request by the customer, and we just push that request out to that CMS.
Great. All right, so folks are asking for Charlie's email address. We'll get that in the follow-up. There's one last question. We're over time, but we'll answer it anyways. Why are more vendors, and why is there a trend towards multi-hardware systems? And why are utilities or cities choosing multiple hardware vendors?
I think those are individual questions for each utility and municipality. However, a few reasons could be, again, you heard Charlie talk about earlier about vendor lock-in, right? Just making sure that from a supply chain perspective, right? I'm sure a lot of folks on the phone remember COVID fund and supply chain disruptions, et cetera, right? So cost, supply chain disruptions, future-proofing your system, right? There are situations, unfortunately, right, where vendors haven't stuck around the whole time, right? None of the partners that we're working with currently, thankfully. But again, future-proofing your system, and because if you throw in the stock with a vendor who unfortunately doesn't make it, without utilizing TerraGo, if you want to go back into another vendor, you got to reimagine everything, redo everything. With TerraGo, from a systems perspective, that future-proofs your system and protects against that.
And then I add in different kinds of fixtures. You have decorative fixtures, you have 40-volt fixtures, you have tunnel lighting. Sometimes, some of the vendors have answers to some of these different deployment strategies that might be a bit different than the others. And so for that reason, we see customers wanting to use these vendors for their decorative fixtures or these for different types of applications, street lights versus area and security lights or barn lights. So there's a lot of variety out there in the field, and sometimes you want to match the right vendor to the right application in the field. We're agnostic to that, but we support that. And that's I think these are the trends are driving, these are the issues that are driving that trend for multi-vendor.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for all your time. We appreciate it. We'll come back to you with slides and a recording. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a great rest of the day.